colleague CC, he might have some information as to the violence on the border.
Make no mistake about it, the Sinaloa cartel is extremely violent. They're responsible for beheadings in Mexico, extremely violent for control of turf. They're at war with the Gulf cartel right now for control over the interior of Mexico. They currently control the entrance point here into Imperial County. Where you sit today in Imperial County is the #1 cocaine and methamphetamine transshipment point in the United States. The port of entry in Calexico East and West is the #1 land port of entry in the United States of America for trafficking cocaine and methamphetamine, and the Sinaloa cartel is responsible for it.
It's all coming through the port, or they bring it to the desert, or what's the main, how do they get it from Mexicali or south of here into this part of the desert?
This group, this particular associate group that we arrested, specialize in compartmentalized vehicles. Anywhere between 20 to 25 kilos of cocaine at a time. Their primary method was to smuggle it across and then bring it up to the communities that we discussed earlier, Riverside, San Bernardino, Los Angeles, San Diego, and through Imperial County, and distribute it across the United States and even to Canada. Because of this investigation, Imperial County, the state of California, and our country is a safer place today. But this particular group specializes in concealment vehicles.
What parts of Canada were being affected by this drug trafficking?
All over. All over. Once the drugs get to Los Angeles, once they get to Chicago, they get to New York, they're distributed through different networks all over the country.
The sheriff just mentioned that somebody had to pay for it. Do you expect any kind of retaliation, or maybe the law enforcement so far are in kind of red cold or something because this?
Anytime you see this many drugs, this many weapons seized from a group of individuals, as they stated earlier, there will be a price to pay. So here in the United States, we don't anticipate it, but down in Mexico, there probably will be violence associated. Anytime that a cell is taken out of an organization, you're going to have control over who's going to take over those routes, and you will see some violence.
Some of the arrests was in Los Angeles County and in the Inland Empire. Are that violence going to affect those areas too?
No, primarily we're thinking probably down in Mexico, because somebody's going to have to answer for the loss of these drugs. And obviously the organization is scrambling right now to try to figure out who is into the organization, and usually at some point there is violence associated with that.
You have 16 indictments, but how strong in numbers would you estimate that the cartel is as a whole?
The Sinaloa cartel, like I mentioned, the new federation, it's a huge. They not only operate here in Mexicali, but in Mexico. But I can't give you a number. We're talking in the hundreds. So, like I said, this is a body blow, and we'll continue to investigate it using all the techniques that we just mentioned to not combat this cartel, but any cartels that may come after them.
And are these indictments against lower level people in the cartel, or are there any higher level individuals?
It's both, because when we conduct the investigation, obviously we try to target the higher level, and we have some of those. But the people that may receive the shipment here in Otero County or Los Angeles, San Bernardino County, they're going to be arrested too. So we really don't discriminate when we're conducting the investigation on who we arrest.
Is there any concern about any of that violence spilling over to border towns like Calexico here in Valley?
Well, just the nature of narcotic business, there could be violence. So we don't anticipate any dramatic increases in that. But obviously, when you're taking off this much of narcotics and the amount of money that we seized, that people are concerned and threats are made.
Will security in those areas be stepped up on account of this?
Well, when you say security, the violence that occurs oftentimes is amongst the narcotic dealers themselves. So some of those people that for example, that we didn't arrest, the cartel in Mexico, they may put out a hit, or they may want that person to answer is how come my load came across. But as far as us knowing who those other people may be, we may not.
Question for the Attorney General. You referenced the budget impact on law enforcement, local
Yeah.
law enforcement. Your former governor, former mayor, maybe a future governor. There's a lot of talk and proposals out there about changing local municipal finance, unwinding things that go back 30 years. What thoughts, if any, do you have on what should be done so that local government, including
I think
law
you
enforcement,
stated-
has a firmer funding mix?
You stated it very well. Unraveling things that have been going on for 30 years. There is a challenge. There will be a deficit next year. It'll double in the following year, maybe triple in the year after that, if something isn't done. And the something can be cuts, it can be more revenue, it can be a combination of both. But currently, there's a deep paralysis because of the inability of the no-cut group to join up with the no-tax group and come up with some kind of a third way. So, yeah, the government is at a crossroads, and it will be struggling a lot in the coming years. And do I have a simple answer for that? Not today.
I'm all ears.
No, not yet. But I'm sure that the next governor will have a lot on his hands.
Since you're going into a meeting here, you have some thoughts about the passing of Senator Kennedy?
Yeah, I do. He's really one of the great political leaders of our time. I had the privilege of meeting him back in 1960 in my father's office when he was governor. He was then helping the campaign of his brother Jack, and I've had a chance to see him over the years, and he stuck with it. He stayed the course. He is probably the clearest spokesman for a liberal progressive view that the country has had for decades, and he was a man who really knew the Senate. He worked with people of both parties, and it is a passing of an era because this is the last Kennedy, and it's just a part of our American history.
Did you know him well, personally?
I would not say well. I knew him. I debated him in the Iowa primary in 1980. One of the privileges of running for president, you meet a lot of important people.
What's your favorite memory when you think about Ted Kennedy?
What is mine? Well, I remember him sitting in the back office. He was waiting to see my father, and I spent some time, talking to him while my father was doing something else. And he was a young guy, and he had a big Boston accent that you could cut with a knife. And he was very alive, very enthusiastic, and there's not anybody like Ted Kennedy anymore. He's an old-fashioned liberal that believed government can help people, and he wanted to help the least fortunate. This is a type of politics that is disappearing, and he exemplified that in a very powerful, very important way. So that's all I can say. All right, well, I'll take care of it. Thank you very much for coming all this way.
Is there any other kind of crime involved in this network? I mean, kidnapping?
All of the above.
Kidnapping too.